Today, we're diving into the complex issues of gerrymandering and voter suppression.
Yeah,
It's such a critical topic right now.
absolutely. It's something that strikes at the heart of our democracy.
Mm-hmm.
So, where should we kick things off?
Well, let's start with gerrymandering.
Right.
It's the practice of drawing political districts to benefit a particular party or group.
Yeah, and the term comes from Elbridge Gerry, doesn't it?
Exactly. He was the Massachusetts governor back in 1812.
Oh, yeah.
He drew a district so oddly shaped it looked like a salamander, hence gerrymander.
That's wild. And this practice still goes on today?
Unfortunately, yes. Politicians use it to create safe seats where one party is almost guaranteed to win.
Right. That really undermines fair competition in elections.
It does. There are two main tactics, packing and cracking.
Mm-hmm. Can you break those down a bit?
Sure, packing is concentrating opposition voters into a few districts, giving them fewer seats overall,
Okay.
so they're all lumped together.
Like putting all your eggs in one basket?
Exactly. And cracking is the opposite, spreading opposition voters across many districts so they can't form a majority anywhere.
Ah, I see. So both methods dilute the voting power of the opposition.
Right on. This leads to elections being less competitive and reduces voter turnout.
Yeah. Who loses out in this system?
Voters do, especially those in competitive districts who lose fair representation.
Mm-hmm.
Minority communities often get diluted and lose political influence.
That's really concerning for democracy.
It is. Then there's voter suppression, which adds another layer to the problem.
Yeah. Voter suppression, let's talk about that.
Sure, it's any strategy that makes it harder for certain groups to vote.
Right. Like strict voter ID laws?
Exactly. Some states require specific types of ID that many voters, like students or the elderly, don't have.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Texas allows gun licenses but not student IDs as valid voter ID.
That seems selective.
It certainly is. Then there's closing polling places in certain areas.
Yeah. Which leads to longer lines and wait times, especially in minority neighborhoods.
Exactly. And don't forget about purging voter rolls.
Right.
States remove inactive voters, but sometimes they eliminate eligible voters by mistake or design.
Like in Georgia, where over 300,000 voters were purged in 2018.
Yes, many of whom were minorities. It's a serious
Mm-hmm.
issue.
And restricting mail-in and early voting also has an impact.
Definitely. Some states limit absentee ballots and early voting, affecting working class and minority voters.
Yeah. So who benefits from all this?
Politicians who want to reduce voter turnout from opposing groups.
Right.
Parties that can rewrite election laws to their advantage.
But both parties have been guilty of this, haven't they?
Yes, historically, both have used these tactics.
Mm-hmm.
But recent laws tend to disproportionately impact minorities, young voters, and low-income communities.
Still, shouldn't we hold all politicians accountable, regardless of party?
Absolutely. We need to push for reforms that ensure fair representation across the board.
Yeah. How do these tactics affect different elections?
In presidential elections, swing states are hit hardest.
Right.
Changing district lines can influence the Electoral College.
Like Florida passing strict voting laws that affect Democratic-leaning voters.
Exactly. In congressional elections, gerrymandering makes the House less competitive.
Mm-hmm. I remember in 2018, Democrats won the House. But in some states, Republicans got more seats despite fewer votes.
That's the power of gerrymandering. It skews
Yeah.
representation.
And on the state level, it impacts everything from governor races to school boards.
Absolutely. Take Wisconsin, for example.
Right.
Extreme gerrymandering there makes Democratic wins nearly impossible.
That's alarming.
It is. These practices weaken democracy by reducing fair competition.
Mm-hmm. They also give more control to extreme politicians.
Exactly. When elections aren't competitive, politicians don't have to appeal to a broad base.
Yeah. So what can be done to stop this?
Well, independent redistricting commissions are a start.
Right.
States like California and Michigan use them to draw fair districts.
That reduces political manipulation in redistricting.
It does. Federal laws protecting voting rights are also crucial.
Mm-hmm. Like the Voting Rights Act of 1965?
Exactly. It was meant to prevent racial gerrymandering.
Yeah.
More recent efforts, like the For the People Act, have struggled in Congress.
That's unfortunate.
It is. Ranked choice voting is another reform that can help.
Right. How does that work?
Voters rank candidates in order of preference, which can reduce the effects of gerrymandering.
Got
It
it.
allows for more nuanced voter expression.
And automatic voter registration could prevent unfair purges.
Exactly, ensuring eligible voters aren't removed from the rolls.
Mm-hmm. But will politicians actually agree to these changes?
It's tough to say. It requires
Yeah.
public pressure and demand for fair elections.
So it's really up to us as citizens.
Absolutely. Reforming the system requires awareness, activism, and participation.
Right. You know, it's like trying to play a game where the rules are always changing to favor one player.
Exactly. No
Yeah.
matter how well you play, you can't win if the game is rigged.
That's not how democracy should function.
Not at all. We need a level playing field where every vote counts equally.
Mm-hmm. I remember a friend who waited 6 hours to vote.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
dedication, but it shouldn't be that hard.
Right? Not everyone can afford to take that time off work.
And that's a form of suppression itself.
Exactly. So what's our takeaway here?
Gerrymandering and voter suppression threaten our democracy.
Mm-hmm.
We all need to stay informed and involved.
And encourage others to do the same.
Definitely. Every action counts toward a fairer electoral system.
Right. Well, this has been an enlightening discussion.
It really has. Thanks for diving into this topic with me.
Sure thing. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in. Let's continue to advocate for a democracy that truly represents all of us.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Yeah.